Hi, and welcome to Espanol and English Private Tutoring. We as a company have decided to create this video to help students understand first person, third person, and second person. Many students have problems trying to understand these concepts. So we decided to create a video for everybody. So they are able to understand better this concept, especially for first level students. This is an important topic for everybody to understand. So once we start learning verbs, you're going to have an understanding of how this works. So right now I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to use a text editor to explain you. So let's start first with subject pronouns. What are subject pronouns? So subject pronouns are special pronouns that replace the subject of the sentence. In Spanish, they are also called personal pronouns. But I think subject pronouns, we can call them now since the function is more specific and is to replace the subject of a sentence. They have other functions in the sentence that we are going to learn later, but not today. And in that way, we can call them personal pronouns later on. But for now, so you can understand better, let's call them subject pronouns. So what are the subject pronouns? The first one is yo. Okay, that is equal in English to I. Second one is tú. Change this to Spanish. Second one is tú. That is equal to you in English. Okay, this is important. So tú is informal. Tú, we only use it with people we know or friends. We don't use it with people we don't know. Tú changes from country to country. So I wouldn't use tú in a place that I don't know how to use it. For example, in Spain, tú is used more widely. In Colombia, not. For example, we don't say tú between men because tú for us is like flirting with someone, or it's more like a way to show affection. Tú is something that you will use with a child or a single woman if you are flirting, or things like that. So in other countries, men and women use tú, in others not. So be careful with that. Don't use tú if you don't know how to use it. It's better to ask. It's better to try to listen how people talk, and that way you will get it right. But it's very difficult to know the customs of every country. So if you don't know the customs, just use usted, and people will tell you if they prefer tú or usted. So usted is also you, but this one is formal. Is used with people you don't know in a professional level and so on. So formal is what I will use if I don't know the customs of a country. So we have yo, tú, usted. Now we have él. Sorry, let's put it here. Él, which is equals to he. And we have ella, which is the same as she. Okay. And we have plural forms as well. So for we, that's the plural form, that will be nosotros, which in English is we. We also have another one, a second one, that is nosotras. Is also the same, we. Let me correct this, nosotras. Okay, so what is the difference between nosotros and nosotras? Nosotros is only used for all males, If I included myself and other males, I will say nosotros. If I included myself and other women, I will say still nosotros. If I am a woman and there are other men with me, I will say nosotros still. So nosotros is a combination of men and women or just men. Now nosotras is just women. That's all. Now we have ustedes. Okay. Ustedes is you plural in English. So it's like saying you all. Okay. In Spain, there is a version that is nos vosotros. Okay. It is also the same in English as you all. And vosotros has two versions. Vosotras as well. Vosotras. All of this is you plural in English. Okay, but vosotros and vosotras is only used in Spain. We don't teach it. It depends on the student. If the student wants to learn it, we teach it. Otherwise not. But vosotros is the same as nosotros and nosotras. Vosotros is only used for men and a combination of men and women. Vosotras is used for only women. That's all. And it means you all. The next one is ellos, which is they, and ellas, which is the same in English, they. Okay. Now the difference here is that ellos is the same, a combination of men and women or just men, and ellas is all women. Okay, now this is important. Why they are called subject pronouns? And as I said, subject pronouns replace the subject of a sentence. I'm going to give you an example. Carlos está en la casa. Okay, let's put the tilde here. Carlos está en la casa. So this in English is car is at home. Okay. Now, try to think. Carlos. We can replace Carlos with what? Do you want, pause the video for a second and try to think? And I will give you the answer soon. So let's continue. Carlos can be replaced by él. ¿No? So él is a subject pronoun because it's replacing the subject Carlos. Okay. So instead of saying Carlos está en la casa, I can say él está en la casa. It's the same in English. Car is at home. I can also say he is at home. Very simple. Right? Let's do another example. What will happen with this? Carla y Augusto comen mucho. Augusto. Carla y Augusto comen mucho. Now, try to think of a subject pronoun that can replace the subject. Giving you some time. Let's do it together. Carla y Augusto comen mucho. That in English is Carla and I don't know the name Augusto in English, but let's call it Augusto. Carla and Augusto eat a lot. I can replace the subject for this. Ellos. So Carla is feminine and Augusto is masculine. So it's a combination of men and women. Now I can replace Carla and Augusto for ellos. Ellos is a subject pronoun that is used to replace men and women or all men. in the subject. So it's the same in English. We can say Carla and Augusto eat a lot, or I can say they eat a lot. That's what a subject pronoun is. It replaces. Now, there are some important things about subject pronouns, mostly subjects. So when you are talking about animals, you cannot use el. You cannot use el. You cannot use ella, or you cannot use ellos or ellas. These four cannot be used to describe or to replace animals or things. Okay, el, ella, ellos, and ellas is only used for people or pets. There is a difference between pets and animals. Pets, sometimes you can call them he, she. In this case, el, ella. But you cannot call them a wild animal, he or she, el or ella. I think it's the same as in English. You cannot call a thing, a TV, he or she either. Okay. In English, you have it. Okay. In Spanish, we don't have it. So in this case, it's very common to use just the name of the animal or the thing. Okay. So in English, for example, I will say the car is big. Which in Spanish is el carro es grande. Okay. So in English, I can replace the subject, the car, by the subject pronoun it. Example, it is big. Okay. In Spanish, it's not very common to replace things for subject pronouns. In Spanish, is mainly used people use mostly the sentence the car is big. They don't replace the car by a subject pronoun because it doesn't exist. But there is something we can use. They are called demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative pronouns is something we are going to learn later on. So I'm just going to give you an example. They are not very common, but you can use them to replace things or animals. And I'm just going to give you an example. Instead of saying in Spanish, the car is big, I can say, este es grande. So este is what is called a demonstrative pronoun. And that's what we use to replace things or animals in Spanish. It's more complex than that. This is just an example. But for now, let's just use this. Let's not go into demonstrative pronouns. I will explain. We will learn this later. Okay. We have ellos, ellas. So none of those. In English, for example, you say the elephant and the monkey in the zoo, no? Correct this. Elephant and the monkey are in the zoo. Okay. In Spanish, I will say el elefante y el mono están en el zoológico. elefante y el mono están en el zoológico. Okay, now I can take this, the elephant. Let me put it better here. Let me separate this. Okay. The elephant and monkey are in the zoo. Okay. Now I can state the subject, the elephant and monkey, and change it for they. They are in the zoo. In Spanish, we don't say that. Okay. And this is what we do in Spanish. We don't use it. We don't usually replace the subject in a sentence if it's an animal or thing. We just leave it as it is. So in Spanish, we wouldn't say they, we will say the elephant and the monkey are in the zoo. Later on, you can use this. For example, you can say, estos están en el zoológico. Estos is a demonstrative pronoun. As I said, that's a way to do it, but it's not very common. And that's a demonstrative pronoun. We will learn this later. Okay, so remember, he, she, they in English are only used for people or pets, never for animals or for things. In other words, él, ella, ellos, ellas is only used for people and animals. It and they in English can be used for things or animals. In Spanish, we don't use subject pronouns for that. We use demonstrative pronouns. Now let's talk, now that we have that out, let's talk about what person is, grammatical person is in Spanish. So let's start with first person. So let's put it here. Primera persona, singular. Primera persona singular is first person singular. So what is first person singular? It's whenever I say I, okay? I, which is equal in Spanish to yo. Okay? That's first person. Look at my finger, one, primera persona. Now, when I'm talking to you directly, and pay attention, directly, not indirectly, directly, is you, not you, which it has two translations into Spanish. Am I talking about you singular? I'm not talking about all of you. I'm just talking about you singular. In Spanish, we have tú, and we have usted. Okay. Remember, tú is informal and is only used with friends and people you know, but this is a very general idea. It changes from country to country. And usted is formal for people you don't know, or in a professional level, or for elders and so on. So you, I is first person. Now you is second person. Why? Because it's a conversation between two people, and the conversation is direct. I'm talking to you directly, and I'm talking about someone. I'm talking to you directly. So that's second person. And it's second person singular. Okay. Now, what is third person? What do you think third person is in Spanish? Or in English? Let's start in English. What is third person in English? You can start the video and try to think, and I give you the answer soon. So let's continue. They, in Spanish, I'm sorry, they not. He, in Spanish, is equal to él. Okay. So look at my fingers. I'm going to put 3 fingers here. So first I, second you, and then third, because it goes from me to you about someone else. That's third person. I'm talking to you about someone else. Third person. Okay. So in this case, he is L, and this is what is called third person singular masculine. Now, what is the feminine? Is she in English, and it will be ella. Okay. So ella is the same. I'm talking directly to you about someone else. So it's third person. 1, 2, 3. And it is feminine. This is what is called third person singular feminine. Now we also have the plural form. So what is first person plural? Try to think about it. Pause the video. And I'm going to give you the answer now. So we is first person plural in English. In Spanish, we have 2. We have nosotros and we have nosotras. Okay. As I explained before, nosotros is for men and women, nosotras is only for women. So why is called first person plural? Because I am including myself and the people near me. Okay, that's why it's called first person plural. We remember when you talk about plural, we are talking about a group of at least 2 people. So that's first person plural. Now, you. What is you in Spanish? You all. You should know the answer by now, but try to think. And you all in Spanish is ustedes, or it could be in Spain, it could be vosotros. Vosotros. Vosotros, it could be us in Spain as well. It could be vosotras. Okay. So you is what we call second person plural. When I'm talking to a group of people directly. So when you are in class and I talk to all of you, that's called second person plural because I'm talking directly to you. Okay. So you, ustedes is the most common one. Vosotros and vosotras is only used in Spain. Now, what is third person? So you should know by now, but third person is they. Yeah? They. They. We have 2 versions in Spanish. We have ellos and we have ellas. So try to guess, why is this called third person plural? I'll give you some time. So it is called third person plural because I am the one that is transmitting the message. You are receiving it, second. And we are talking to you about someone else or other people. Or it could be pets. Okay. So ellos is considered third person plural masculine, and ellas is considered third person plural feminine. Now, do not get confused with third person plural masculine. Remember, ellos could be a combination of men and women, or all men. Okay, now something important. Let's do a small exercise. So Now let's talk about verbs. Before we do the exercise, let's talk about verbs. Let's talk first about the verb start. Start. So according to the grammatical rules in both English and Spanish, the verbs have to agree in person and number with the subject. Okay? So example, Carla and Jan are at home. Okay? This in Spanish will be Carla y Juan están en casa. Carla y Juan están en casa. Okay, so pay attention to this. Están, let's put it here, and are. Let's put it here. So let's try to think. Carla and Juan, what person is? First person, second person, or third person? Another question. Is Carla and Juan or Carla and Jan third person singular or plural, second person singular or plural, or first person singular or plural or singular? What of those is? Try to think about it. So this is the answer. When I say Carla and Jan, means that I'm not talking to you directly. That means that I'm talking to you about Carla and Jan. Okay? You are not Carla and you are not Jan. Okay? So I'm talking to you about Carla and Jan. So the conversations in singular. This is what is this subject, Carla and Jan, is third person plural. Okay? Now, Carla and Juan is a combination of men and women. So this is third person plural masculine. Because remember, masculine, third person plural masculine could be a combination of all men or a combination of men and women. So if I want to replace the subject of the sentence, Carla y Juan, or Carla and Jan, what subject pronoun will you use? Just try to think for a moment, and I give you the answer. You can pause the video. Okay, I'm giving you the answer now. I can take Carla and Jan and change it for agents. Okay, and the same I can do here in English. I can take Carla and Jan and replace it for they. Okay. So as you see, they is third person plural. In Spanish, ellos is third person plural. Now, look at the verb. Okay. So according to the rules, and for this, I advise you to look at page 15 of the book. I think it's page 15, the white book. Look of how you conjugate the verb start in Spanish. Okay, so start. Start, every verb that finishes on AR or finishes on ER or finishes on IR are called verbos en infinitivo, infinitive verbs. Okay, so a start is an infinitive verb because finishes on AR. Now, how you conjugate this verb? The rule is this. So in the first person singular, which is yo, you drop the AR and S and change it for hoy. Okay. That's first person singular. I only talking about the verb start, not other verbs, because the verb start is irregular in the first person in this case. Now, how you conjugate the verb start in the second person? Try to think about it, and if you have the answer, just try to figure it out. And I'm going to give you the answer now. Usted. Usted is second person, eh? So to conjugate the verb start in the second person, you use this. You drop the AR of the infinitive verb and change it for A. Okay? So first person, yo estoy. Second person, formal. Remember, formal. Usted está. Okay? Now, how you conjugate the verb in the second person informal? Try to think about it. That would be so you drop the AR and change it for us. So it will be estás. Tú estás. How you conjugate the verb in the third person? Let's start with masculine. L. To think about it, and it would be está. Él está. That's how you conjugate the verb. So you drop the AR and change it for an A. And the same will be with ella. Okay. And you do this. Sorry. It's the same. Now pay attention to this. So look at these two and look at this one. In fact, let me change this. I'm going to move it here. I'm going to move it here so you can see. So usted está, él está, ella está. See? So the verbs AR, ER, and IR all have the same conjugation in the second person formal, third person masculine singular, and third person feminine singular. So you have to be very careful with this, because in Spanish it's very common to omit the subject in a sentence. Example, in Spanish, if I'm going to ask you, are you happy? In Spanish, I can say this, estás feliz. Okay. That's how it is in Spanish, estás feliz. In this case, let's look at the conjugation in this verb. What is the conjugation of this verb here? Let's go up and we will see is this one. You see? So, estás is second person informal. It's conjugated in the second person informal. But what happened with the sentence? You see that I omitted the subject. I didn't say tú. Okay. So in Spanish, it's very common to omit the subject in sentences. Because if you notice here, estás is the only conjugation that ends on as. All the other conjugations do not finish on as. So when you use the verb start, I will understand that you are talking to me in second person informal singular. You don't need to use the subject because I understand. But what happens if you do this? Let's do another sentence, a different sentence. Let's say he's at home. Let's put it here. He is at home. And what in Spanish will be está en casa. Let me ask you a question. Do you think I can omit the subject in this sentence? Can I just say this? Can I say that? Try to think about it, and I'm going to give you the answer. Okay. So in this case, you cannot omit the subject. Because if you omit the subject, look at this. We have usted está, él está, ella está. Second person formal. Third person masculine singular. And third person feminine singular all have the same conjugation. So if you tell me está en casa, I don't know if you are talking about you, he, or she. So in this case, to clarify, I need to put the subject. I need to say él. Otherwise, I wouldn't understand about whom you are talking about. So pay attention to that. That's okay. Now let's continue with the plural form. How to conjugate the verb start in first person plural. In this case, in English, is we. Okay. So let's go with this. Nosotros es. So all you do is drop the AR, which is the ending on the infinitive verb, and add amos at the end. Okay. So it will be estamos. Nosotros estamos. Now look at this. This is what is called first person plural. First person plural. And this case is masculine. Now the feminine is the same. I will do it like this. The feminine form is nosotras. Nosotras estamos. Okay. That's first person. How will be second person? Second person will be ustedes, no? Which is you all in English. To conjugate a verb in second person plural, or to conjugate an AR verb, we are just learning the verb start, you do the following. You drop the AR out and replace it with AN. Ustedes están. That's second person plural in Spanish. Remember, the second person plural has another version, which is only used in Spain, and it will be vosotros. I'm going to give you the conjugation for that verb here, but we don't need it. I mean, you guys decided not to use it. So we are not going to learn it now. But I'm going to give you the conjugation anyway, so you can keep it in mind. In this case, you drop the AR out and change it for eyes. Yeah, vosotros estáis. That's the second person masculine plural. And we have second person feminine plural as well. In Spain, only remember, is the same. Vosotras estáis. Now let's jump into third person. So third person will be ages. That's third person masculine plural. And all you do is this. Take the air out and change it for an. So it will be ellos están. And with third person feminine plural is the same. All you do is this. Ellas están. Okay. So notice here that we have the same problem as we had with the singular forms. I'm going to move this one so you can see. And put it here. So as you can see, second person plural, third person plural masculine, and third person plural feminine all have the same conjugation. So be careful with this when you create a sentence. For now, while you get more practice, do not omit the subject of the sentence when you are writing sentences or creating sentences in Spanish, because you can get confused or other people can get confused. Example, if we can say, they are at home. Right? They are at home. In Spanish, it could be, let's do it this way first. Están en casa. Let's say that I decided to omit the subject. Now, because están could be different persons, like it could be ellas, it could be ellos, ustedes, I'm going to get confused. I wouldn't know about whom you are talking about. So in this case, it's better that I include the subject pronoun or include a subject in the sentence so I can understand about who you are talking about. In this case, let's say ellos, okay? So remember that these here are called subject pronouns. Now, instead of ellos, I can put a subject. I can say, los niños de la escuela están en casa. Los niños de la escuela. Los niños de la escuela están en casa. Now, all of these, that's the subject of the sentence. Subjects can be very complex. We are not going to learn this yet. We are going to learn how a subject is structured and all that later in 5th level. But that's the subject of the sentence. And this subject here is third person plural, masculine, because niños, because niños is masculine, is plural masculine. It could be a combination of girls and boys or just boys, but it's considered masculine. Okay, and it's third person because I'm not calling you niños, I'm not calling you kids. I'm talking to you about kids. That's third person plural. Okay? And if I want, I can replace all these subject, I can replace it for ages. Okay. So that's what first person, third person is. Now, there is another subject pronoun out there is boss. Okay. Boss is the same as saying you in English, but you singular. This is second person singular, but it's only used in Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Chile mostly. Many other countries use it, but in small regions. So most of my students do not want to learn this. They decide they don't want it or they don't need it, but I give the alternative. So in this case, I'm not going to teach it because it's not as common, but just keep it in mind, boss. The conjugation for this is different. So I'm not going to teach it right now because we don't need it at this moment. But that's it. That's what the subject pronoun is, and that's what a grammatical person is in Spanish. So let me see if I'm missing something here. So we have ellos, they, bien. Remember that for things and animals, we use the subject. We don't use subject pronouns to replace those subjects in Spanish. Instead of that, but it's not very common, we can use demonstrative pronouns and we will learn them later. And I think that's it. So remember that the subject of the sentence does not agree with the verb. It's the other way around. The verb needs to agree with the subject. So in other words, if the subject is third person plural, the verb needs to be conjugated in the third person plural. Now, the verb ser is an irregular verb. What is an irregular verb? An irregular verb is that one that does not follow any rules. These types of verbs you have to learn by memory, and it's on page 15. I'm not going to conjugate it. All you have to do is check the book and learn the conjugation of that verb. But remember, the subject never agrees with the verb. It's the other way around. The verb needs to agree with the subject. I'm going to give you one more example for you to think about it, and we'll finish this class. I'm going to put you on more complex subjects so you can think about it. Las niñas y los niños y los niños de la escuela son muy activos. Try to think, what is the subject in this sentence? What person is the subject? Third question, with what subject pronoun can you replace the subject? In what person you have to conjugate the verb? Okay. Try to think on all those questions, pause the video, try to answer, and I give you the answers. Okay. What is the subject of the sentence? The subject of the sentence is this. That's the subject of the sentence. I'm talking to you about the girls and boys of the school. Yeah. So it's third person talking to you about them. It's third person. How can I replace the subject? I can use the following subject pronoun. I can replace all these and say ellos. Now, which one is the verb here? The verb is this one. So it comes from the verb ser. So the verb ser in this case is conjugated in the third person plural and is agreeing with the subject. This means the subject is third person plural and the verb is agreeing with the subject, not the other way around. So the verb needs to agree with the subject in third person plural. So it has to be conjugated in third person plural. And son is third person plural. And the rest of the sentence doesn't matter. I'm not going to explain that right now. And we don't need to go into that yet. And that's it. So that's what is first person, second person, and third person, both singular and plural. And that's how you conjugate verbs in Spanish. We are just starting to learn start and serve, so I'm not going to go deeper into other verbs. We will learn that later. But you have an idea of what is an infinitive verb and what is a verb that is conjugated. An infinitive verb is a verb that is not conjugated, that is in its natural form. And a verb that is conjugated follows some rules. Verbs that follow the rules are called regular verbs. Verbs that do not follow any rules are called irregular verbs. Those irregular verbs you have to learn by memory. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can call or text at 215-776-6149. You can also contact us at espeng.net. I'm going to put the information here. Contact us at espeng.net. That's our email. Sorry, let me change this to English now. Contact us at espeng.net. And the phone number is 215-776-6149. So you have any questions, just let us know and we will try to answer as soon as possible in a period of 24 hours. Have a good day. And again, thank you for watching.